Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of the CSG Vodcast. Today's guest, I'm excited to talk with Josh Offenhartz. Josh is a native Arizonan who loves the Grand Canyon State, which so do I. He's a business attorney who represents clients in the finance, medical, construction, real estate, culinary industries. He's active in the community and volunteers for organizations servicing the arts, education, and religious sectors. Outside of work, Josh is a passionate sports fan, an amateur cinephile, and teaches a class for teens that promotes leadership, civic engagement, and philanthropy. Josh, welcome to the vodcast.
Dave, I'm really excited to be here. I'm happy to chat with you today, and I hope that the listeners and your audience will take at least one thing away from our conversation, whether that's related to their business, law, or hopefully we can find something profound and talk about the meaning of life.
I love it. That's exactly what we want. And that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to start with. Tell us a little bit about you, how you approach business in your law firm, and what do you see that businesses, what's a trick you could tell a business that they should be looking out for?
Yeah, so, Dave, a little bit about me. Like you read, I'm a native to Arizona, so I joke, I am an Arizona cowboy. There are few and far between.
Nice.
But unlike the old cliches, we didn't ride our horses to school and we didn't hitch the posts and we're still working from gas lamps. As your listeners, may be aware, Maricopa County, which is Phoenix, is one of the fastest growing counties in the country. I believe we're either number 4 or 5, depending on the year and the census and this, that, and the other. And the wonderful thing is that, we are attracting all sorts of businesses, small businesses, big businesses, mega corporations, international corporations. And really, it's a diverse, assortment of sectors as well. We've got a finance sector, which is really finance adjacent because obviously, Wall Street is Wall Street. But Vanguard has a huge campus here, and that attracts other types of financial companies. We have significant tech, R&D, consumer appliances. You've got Boeing, you've got Honeywell. We've got the F-35 at the Luke Air Force Base. We've got the University of Arizona, Arizona State. So Arizona really is, I think, on the cutting edge of the 21st century. And it's a very awesome place to live, work, and raise a family. But I think specifically, I joke, I always knew that law was in my future because I would run my mouth and break the rules. And so, my mom knew it, my dad knew it, my teacher certainly knew it. And it was just a matter of time before it happened. I actually started a first career in public policy and government relations. And this was in the late aughts and the early 2010s. And the problem for me there, without going too far into it, was just I'm a problem solver at heart. And, too often at the legislatures and at the executive level, people are there to fight. They're there to grandstand. They're not there to solve problems. And so as much as I loved that portion of my career, I pivoted out and went to law school. And since being an attorney, I work with businesses. I work with small businesses. I work with medium businesses. I work with growing businesses. And I'm told that based on some of the revenues that my clients are taking in and the work that they're doing, I really actually work with large and very large businesses. In my mind, it's not like a Walmart, but when you're getting into millions, tens of millions of dollars, you're not talking about a mom and pop shop. And I provide a wide array of legal services, for those smaller entities or the growing entities. I'm there from the beginning. How do we form? What do we look like? How do we hire that first employee? How do we ensure compliance? For those growing businesses, I joke the first time you get a cease and desist letter or the first time you get threatened with a lawsuit, you've turned the corner and you've made it because you're on somebody's radar. We deal with that. And then obviously, by training, I'm a civil litigator, so I'm in the courtroom. And if that day comes where you get sued, I'm there to fight for you or to defend you to make sure that, we prevail and protect the companies. And so, that's a little bit about me. A little bit about, my business is, unlike I think your average attorney that, went to school, went to law school, is a lawyer, is focused on the law. Because of, my academic background in business and my first career in sort of that quasi-public, private, government relations type role, I understand the intersection of law and business very well. But I think more importantly, I understand that businesses are trying to solve problems and lawyers need to be the problem solver. They don't need to be the smartest guy, the lawyer in the room. And so what I try to do is exactly that, which is solving the business problem. In order to do that, you have to be available, you have to be efficient, and you have to solve the problem. And so I think really that's what separates me from other very good lawyers is, I understand and take time to understand the business. I take time to understand the business problem. And I'm not there to prove how good of a lawyer I am by pontificating. I'm there to show how good of a lawyer I am by solving your problem and letting you guys get back to business. And it works. It's working. Everything's going great. And, we're here today because of it.
You work for a fairly large law firm, I assume. You have locations in Phoenix and California and maybe some other places. Does your firm, for our audience, we have a lot of tech people out there. Do you have some experience, or can you share some thoughts about the cybersecurity issues that all of our businesses do face today? Does your firm work in that area?
Yeah, so we touch on it a little bit. We've got some specialists, and it's an area where I would say my work is legal adjacent, and I certainly work with cybersecurity experts. If I can, I'll share an anecdote,
Yeah.
which is an area where at least in one venue we're seeing problems in law broadly speaking. And so it was, I think, 2 years ago now. You lose track of time as it goes by. But we had finished a case. We were getting ready to settle. Everyone's signing the paperwork. You're doing this and that. There were some intricacies that involved additional paperwork, not relevant to the story. And when the time came to cut the check, as they said, my client cut a physical check. We physically delivered it. All of that went out without a hitch. Well, the other co-defendant in that case decided to do electronic payment, and they submitted that, and everyone sort of moved on with their life. Several months later, probably weeks later, but we got a call from the FBI because it had turned out that the settlement money went missing, and that they were investigating a group that took that money. And we're talking at that point, that was a seven-figure, I don't believe it was an eight-figure, but a seven-figure payout, so not a little sum of money. And what it turned out had happened was that there had been hackers that had breached the plaintiffs, so the suing side, that had breached their law firm, had created spoof email accounts that were one letter changed. They were lurking in the background to monitor the entire situation. And then what ended up happening is at the moment of payment, they jumped in, they sent a phishing or a fraudulent email that had different payment instructions for their bank account. And then what did they do? They cleaned up the back end from the plaintiff side law firm so that nobody realized that an unauthorized email was sent. Nobody could track it or see it. And so, poof, that money was gone. And so one of the things that we learned from that was really from the law enforcement agencies is that this was a problem that's happening in law. Right? You've got bad actors that are breaching the security systems, that are lying in wait for moments where money is being transferred, and then that's when they're striking. So that's certainly something that has been on our IT specialists, front of mind. And how do you put those precautions in place? It certainly, requires some level of human accountability and sort of human oversight. Yeah. But, let's be honest, not all of us are looking at the fine print of the email line, after months and years of back and forth conversation. And if you have certain types of, correspondent programs, it just, it says Josh Offenhartz or Dave G. It doesn't say, Dave G at daveg.com. Right. So, that's one big issue that we have been told is a security risk. I think, other issues that pop up from time to time. I mean, one, in most areas of law, you've got client privilege and confidentiality. Most firms of our size and bigger, but even smaller firms, they have additional obligations. For example, if you're dealing with medical records, you've got HIPAA obligations. If you're dealing with other forms of ESI like, credit and money and background and things like that, you've got those obligations to protect that. So, there is always a question of, is your server safe, secure? How are you transferring large sums of money? Those are all front of mind. The other thing that comes out recently is, how do you receive and transfer data and files? It's really easy to say, here's a PDF that's unsecured, boom, there you go. Well, what happens if that's intercepted, right? Does the PDF need to be password secured? Things like that. Is Dropbox okay? Is OneBox okay? Do you need some greater system? So I think, generally speaking, those are all some of the big issues, right? How do you protect data? How do you transfer protected data? How do you have protected communications? And then really, how do you service an industry where I think those responsibilities are taken very seriously because they have to be, but you're really talking about an industry that, for the most part, while we've moved to digital because of COVID, you've still got generations of practitioners and really generations of leaders that are in an analog age. And so the ability to educate them, to get them on board and to keep and hold that accountable, it really can be a struggle. So to the extent, security experts out there can have clean presentations, to the extent that they can explain complex topics, clearly and articulately, and to the extent that their products work seamlessly without issue, I think the legal industry is very ripe for, I wouldn't call it disruption, but I think that there are too many people that create very, I don't want to say bad products, but I think they're antiquated products. And so I do think the industry is ripe for not takeover, right? People that come in with products that sort of do what we talk about. I think there's ample opportunity, and obviously the dollars and money is quite lucrative.
Yeah, that's awesome. We could go on for a long time on this subject. A lot of our listeners out there are in that sort of world and can probably chip in and tell us a lot more stories. But it sounds like to me that what I would recommend you all out there listening do is check in with Josh. If you have any legal business concerns, business problems, sounds like Josh and his team can step in and at least give you some advice and perhaps be your savior. So Josh, I really want to thank you for your time. I know it's kind of a short interview, but your information will be on the back end of this. So anybody out there wants to reach out to Josh, by the way, I would recommend you go and check out Josh's LinkedIn page. I found it very good. Good job on the LinkedIn page, Josh. A lot of good info in there too. So thanks for your time, and we'll see you guys all on the next vodcast. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.